Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden and welcome to my secret garden. My secret garden is the north side of my house, and this poor garden has been through a lot since I moved into this house. I had big plans for it and it's kind of gone through a couple reiterations of that plan just based on issues with this garden, particularly lighting issues, sun issues. And this garden is what you would call a sun transition garden, in that during the winter, maybe early spring, it is like a full shade garden. And that's what I assumed this garden was when I first moved in here. And so I planted it up for full shade. Then I realized as the sun gets higher in the sky, it becomes a full sun garden. At least on this side, you can see the sun already. And so I had to completely kind of revamp it. And then I decided I didn't like some things and all that kind of stuff. So I've decided just to completely start over. Not completely start over. I've got a lot of good stuff already. I've got the bones already. But this week, I really want to work on putting the finishing touches on this garden that I haven't really done, honestly, because I've been too frustrated about doing it over and over and over again. So right now, let me show you the garden and show you some of the issues I've been dealing with. So first off, the sun issues, obviously. You can see it's sun right now. It's kind of an overcast day. But during the summer and early fall, late spring, definitely a full sun garden, and over here is a lot of shade, except for it does get morning sun and evening sun. So it's a really tough spot, and I have to really focus on what type of plants I'm planting in this garden to make sure it can handle shade and it can handle sun. One of the best plants that I've been able to find is Surefire begonia. This is Surefire white, Surefire rose would work, Surefire cherry cordial would work. These plants can handle full shade and full sun and be completely fine. One of the plants that hasn't worked is this Jack Frost Brunnera. This Jack Frost Brunnera I planted when I thought it was more shade, and then once it gets the summer heat, all these leaves get really crispy. I cut them all back, and even before I had a chance to move them, they've kind of flushed back. So they're obviously happy plants. This is just not really the right spot for them. So in addition to the sun issues that I've been having, I also have black walnut issues. So I have a black walnut tree right here, and then there's another black walnut tree over there. And I really didn't focus on this, and I should have focused more on the black walnut, because black walnut secretes a chemical called jugalone. And there are some plants that cannot handle the jugalone that the black walnuts secrete. And so you can look up online and you can find plants that are safe for jugalone, but I have planted some things. Like I had a beautiful peony planted over here, and it immediately died, and it was because peonies are really, really bad for jugalone. Hydrangeas are really bad for jugalone. There's a couple things that it just cannot handle being planted near there. So that's another issue that I have. I did put up these beautiful wrought iron walls and arch, and I have Clematis armandii growing on this one, which has been absolutely beautiful, and it's growing and it's filling in, and I can't wait for it to be like a full wall. So the Clematis armandii worked really well over there. However, over here, the late evening sun was too much for the Clematis armandii, so I replaced that with bower vine. So you can see the issues that I've been having. It's just been like trial and error and trying something again and again and again and trying to figure out what works for this garden. So to make things easy, I want to plant one of the easiest plants that can handle shade, it can handle sun, it can pretty well handle jugalone, and I think it will be a really good addition to this garden. My friend Michael Glassman, who's a landscape designer, thinks I definitely need to add them, but my plan is to add a sprinter boxwood border to this area, which is going to bring some formality to this secret garden, which I definitely think it needs. But I'm going to do a whole bunch of other things as well. I actually purchased shutters, and I purchased window boxes for these windows, these two windows right here, because I have this big blank wall behind me me with nothing really going on. And so I thought putting window boxes and shutters there will make a really big difference. Now you can see my windows, they don't have any wood trim around them. So that's another thing that I want to do is I want to add some wood trim, then I'll put on the shutters and then I'll put on the window boxes. And I think that'll make this area look really, really nice. I have these these are false hydrangeas, climbing false hydrangea vines. They are starting to look really good. I'm going to leave them there and then have the window boxes kind of all around them. We also, you can see I have the arborvitae right there, and I don't have one right there, and that is because that one died because we forgot to hook it up to drip. Story of our life. So I'm replacing an arborvitae over there, and I'm replacing another one over there. So that should look really good, especially with the boxwood border that I'm installing right there. I also need to move these Niagara Fall panicums because they're just not working well right there. So my list is pretty long for the things that I need to get done that I want to work on this whole week. So I think for day one, what I'm going to get started on is I'm going to get started on installing the wood trim around these windows, installing the shutters, and installing the window boxes. So let's get going. For the trim around the windows, I went to the big box store and got some 1x4 primed exterior trim boards. They were pre-primed, which is why they are this tan color, and I thought it was worth it to buy them like this so it could save me a step. It took 3 16-foot boards to trim both windows. At the store, I used the cutting station to cut the boards down to a shorter, more manageable length so they could fit in my truck. And that gave me lengths for around each side of the windows, plus some extra pieces that I'm going to use for the shutters. You'll see what I'm talking about later on. At the store, their miter saw was out of order and they only had a hand saw I could use. So I cut them with some leeway after lots and lots of sawing, and my arm was very sore after that. But I took them home and I ended up cutting the exact lengths on my own miter saw in the metal workshop. You'll see that I'm not making angled mitered cuts for this window trim, which is a very common way to install window trim. I was looking at all the different styles of window trim that there were, and I decided to go with a straight cut, which I felt like matched the style of my California ranch home a little bit better. And I also felt like it matched the style of board and batten style shutters that I had bought. Not only did I like the style of the straight cuts, but I also felt like it would be a little bit easier than making mitered cuts and getting them to fit perfectly around the windows. After all my cuts were made, I noticed that I had these little stickers on these boards, and so I tried to remove them, and I swear they were glued on. I don't understand why manufacturers put stickers on the front. This was the front. If it was the back, that would be one thing, but this was the front of these boards. It's kind of like when you buy a picture frame from Home Goods or something, and they put an almost non-removable sticker right on the glass, and you can't get it off, and there's always goo there. I ended up using some Goo Gone and razor blades to get all these stickers off, but even then you could still see some residual glue. Luckily, once I painted the boards though, you couldn't see the marks anymore, but let me tell you, I was very frustrated at the amount of time it took to deal with these stickers. So after cutting my boards, it was time for the install. And since I have stucco siding, I decided to use a construction adhesive to help me bind the trim to the walls. This adhesive is just to help me out a little while I'm screwing the boards in. Most of the trim is going to be held on by the screws, but I felt like this construction adhesive could help me out just a little bit, at least for the application. I applied a line of the construction adhesive on the back of each of my boards. It was actually very thick and very hard to get out of the caulking gun, but I got it done. And then because I have stucco siding, I had to make sure that I used masonry drill bits to drill my pilot holes. Now, around windows, around exterior windows, there's always wood framing. So I knew everywhere that I was going to drill this trim into, I knew I was going to have a wood stud behind the stucco. And so that made it easier for me because then I knew I just had to drill my pilot hole, get into the wood stud, and then I could use my wood decking screw to screw the trim into place, and I knew that it would be held securely. So again, the construction adhesive helped, but the construction adhesive was more for the application than actually having any stability holding the board on. The screws are really what held the board on into the studs. So once all the trim was attached, it was time for caulking. And this is the caulk that I used. And I made a mess. I made an absolute mess. And I think I went through 2 full rolls of paper towels, just kind of cleaning up. I've heard it said that caulking can hide a multitude of errors. I think we've all seen those videos of those professionals applying a nice clean line of caulk and then wiping it off like it's nothing. Yeah, let's just say caulking is not my specialty. I made such a mess. I could not get the hang of it. I kept trying. I went through 4 tubes of caulk, which the guy at Home Depot said I only needed 2, and I think I just wasted so much of it. And of course, paper towels cleaning up the mess. And what you're seeing here, this was just the very beginning. As it got darker, things got worse and worse and worse. But I think in the end, it ended up looking okay after hours of caulking and me kind of trying to clean it up a little bit with my finger, with paper towels, with sponges, and then of course painting after the end. I'm happy with what I ended up with. All right, so it's been 2 days of working on the trim project, which is kind of annoying because the trim project is so I don't know, it just doesn't make a huge difference in the look of how everything goes. But I do think that adding the trim around the windows is going to make a huge difference in making the project look all finished. I can honestly say that I hate caulking. Caulking is one of my least favorite jobs to do. It is a complete mess. I am absolutely terrible at it, and I never want to do it again. But I did it, it's done, and I painted it all out, and I think it looks really good now. And it makes the windows look just a little bit more finished and ready for the shutters and ready for the flower boxes. So here's an overall look at what it looks like. If you see those Post-its on the inside, I actually went in there and that's how I found the studs, and that's where I'm going to attach the flower box to. That's what I learned is it's hard to find studs through stucco, and so there's a couple ways to do it, but the easiest way to do it is just to go into the inside, use your stud finder on the inside, and then you can mark out where the studs are. So because there was windows there, I thought that was the easiest way to do it. So that's what the Post-it notes are. So I think next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the shutters, and these shutters are board and batten shutters. You can kind of see these right here, and you can get them in different sizes, different lengths. I just got them from Home Depot. Really easy, really straightforward. They're black, and I think I'm just going to leave them black. I don't think I'm going to actually paint them right now, but they are paintable. So if I do want to come back and I want to paint them slate or something, then I have the opportunity to do that. So I think what I'll do is I'll just start unboxing these and get these going. I think I showed you guys my inspiration photo where the shutters, this side of the shutters goes over the trim. And then because this trim is thick right here, I needed to have another spacer board on the other side for the other side of the shutter to screw into. So I have these little offcuts from just more of the trim that I'm going to screw into the stucco first, and then that's where the other side of the stucco or the shutter is going to go. I hope that I'm making sense. In my mind, it's making sense, but it's also taken me a week of thinking about this project to figure it out in my mind, but you guys will see once I start installing it. So let's go. So part 2 of this window decoration project was the shutters, and I ended up getting shutters from Home Depot. They are the Ply Gem brand, and they're the polypropylene 4-board closed board and batten shutters. That is a mouthful. In black. They came in a pair. They weren't too expensive. The reason why I really wanted them is because they had so many different heights, so I could pick the exact height that I needed for this window. The other cool thing about these is the batten, the horizontal board, it kind of slid off, and that is where you drilled the shutter into your wall, and then you could slide the board right back in and cover up the screws. So I just thought that was really neat. Now, I don't know what I was thinking. In my mind, I thought that I could do this project by myself, just like I did the trim, and very quickly I realized that I needed to recruit Jason to help, which is really nice because he put his projects kind of on the back burner today, and I really appreciated him out there helping. Plus, this, I ended up going and I ended up getting these different screws. These are actually stucco screws. They're special screws for stucco walls where you don't need anchors. So you can see where our spacer board is. There's no stud right behind that spacer board. So we needed to use some type of anchor. So I found these special screws that were not cheap. They were almost $1 per screw, if you can believe it. But they are specifically for stucco, which I thought was great. And I'm probably going to use them more. And I'll link those along with the shutters in the description down below. So Jason was there to drill in the pilot holes and then drill in the stucco screws. And it ended up being a really easy job with the both of us. After we finished the first window shutters, we decided to, well, Jason decided to take a little bit of a break and go watch a little bit of football, which I totally understood. And I decided to get started on the window box. Now, the window box is going to be a lot heavier than the shutters. And so it's going to need something a little bit more stable to screw into. And so what I did is I put a piece of board underneath the window and I drilled that board into the studs. That's why those Post-its were there in the window. So I knew where the studs were and I knew where to screw in my board to. So this board is now very, very stable and can handle a little bit more weight. So after that, we added the brackets. Because this window box was so wide, there ended up being 5 brackets and we drilled those in, and we actually ended up using more of those stucco screws because they were so stable once you put them in. I don't know how they make them or what they do. They must expand a little bit into the stucco or something like that, but we could just tell that they were really, really great. So I definitely recommend those stucco screws. So we drilled the rest of the brackets in, installed the rest of the brackets, and then we put the window box on, and I have to say the girls were so excited. They are so excited to have flowers out their window. They're so happy that I'm kind of redoing the secret garden area because they can look outside and they can see all the beautiful flowers and hear the fountain, and I'm just really excited for them. I think it's going to be great. So it was on to window number 2. Jason and I were only able to install the shutters on the second window. We were not able to install the window box because that one actually isn't here yet. This vine that's growing up my wall, it's actually a false hydrangea vine, and I would not let Jason remove it off of the wall. I told him we just had to move it off to the side and let it keep growing because I want that look of the vines growing up behind the shutters, and I just think it would be so pretty. He was definitely annoyed at me, but we made it work. So anyway, we got the shutters on. We've got one of the 2 window boxes on, all with Monty overseeing our progress and making sure we were staying on task. And I just could not be happier with how this project ended up. Okay, so we have come as far as we can. I am so happy with this. Are you happy?
This looks very good.
This looks stunning. This looks so beautiful. Let me see if I can show you guys. So as you can see, we have the window box over here on this side, and we do not have the window box over here on this side. And that is because we think it's lost in the mail. At one point, they said that they were going to mail it this morning, and it was supposed to get here this morning. And then we saw that it said quantity 2 was delivered when this one was delivered yesterday, and only 1 was delivered. So I'm going to have to follow up and see where it is. Lost in translation. No, lost in transportation, I would say. But at least you can see kind of what the finished product is going to look like. And I have to say, I am so happy with it.
Lost in transit.
Lost in transit. I'm very tired.
I knew there was I was like, what's that phrase?
You know, I was up at like 5 o'clock this morning, like thinking about this project and like looking at the directions and trying to figure it out so that there was no mistakes. And
great. It turned out great.
There was a couple mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me show you all a closer look. Again, the trim around the windows, those are 1x4 trim pieces that I got from Home Depot. They were exterior primed, ready to go. And you can see that I did this type of look rather than the miter, rather than the 45-degree miter, because I thought this look would match better with this board and batten look of these shutters. And these shutters are PVC, as is this window box right here. And I know this is from the company Maine, M-A-Y-N-E, and that's actually the same company that made our window boxes at our last house. So we know they're good. We know we like them. Of course, wood would be great. Wood would be great. How's that, right? But I think that this is going to last a lot longer for us. And all of this is paintable as well. So if I ever want to paint it, I can paint it. I just left the false hydrangea vine underneath, and we just installed it right over, like not on the vine, but like the vine is kind of in between. And I just think that that is so beautiful. I think it looks gorgeous like that. So we're just waiting for the second window box. Hopefully it gets here soon. Everybody cross your fingers, but I'm not totally sure. So anyway, that is day 1 of my secret garden complete makeover. I'm very, very excited about it. That was day 1, but day 1 took me 3 days, right? I've been out here for a solid 3 days working out here to get these things done. So now they're done. I feel like that was the hardest part. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be transplanting some trees out here, which is going to be really fun. I have boxwoods that are going in here. I have some more hydrangeas that are going in here. It's going to be beautiful. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.